Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. Today we're going to share with you another one of our listener reports on a cryptid spotted in Illinois. So let's get weird. This encounter took place in southern Illinois, Marion, Illinois to be specific, on Route 37 near the Reservoir Road on August 1st, 2024. So this is a very recent sighting.
Yeah.
It was early in the morning, about 2 or 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep for whatever reason and decided to go outside to smoke. I didn't care for being outside by myself at night, right along the highway. This area had always given me an uneasy feeling at night. I figured I'd just sit in the truck and roll the window down. I got in the truck and cracked the window. Suddenly, it felt as though something large had just fallen into the bed of the truck. It impacted the entire truck as a major earthquake would, or a minor tornado, meaning the truck shook. The whole truck shook upon impact. I was so startled I knew it was real. This kind of impact could not be a prank, my imagination, or a dream. I was so terrified I couldn't even move. I was paralyzed with fear. I couldn't bring myself to turn around and look through the back window to the bed. So I raised my eyes to the rearview mirror and saw the biggest bird-like creature I had ever seen. My heart must have stopped. It completely filled the entire bed of the Dakota. It was there in a hunched down resting position, so I have no idea how large a wingspan this thing had. I noticed that its neck was similar to an ostrich, long and kind of scaly, like that of a rat tail. It had the head of a typical bird with a long beak. I had a feeling of dread, and I mustered up the courage and in one swift motion opened the cab door and sprinted to the side door of the house. The whole time I never looked back. It wasn't that far to the house, less than 50 feet, maybe 30 feet. I made it inside and frantically started searching for my husband's gun, which I couldn't find. I was beside myself. I've never been that scared in my entire life. By the time I became calm enough to articulate what I had seen and convince my husband that I saw something that had rattled me to my core, the creature was gone. My husband looked out the window and saw nothing. He said it may have been a flock of geese. It wasn't a flock of geese. I know what I saw. Up until that point, cryptid sightings had always just been a form of entertainment to me, as I was a skeptic and could always rationalize some scientific reason for debunking them. Now my mind has changed. I don't share this experience as it sounds crazy, and the times that I have shared, I have been treated as such, crazy. I've not had another encounter since.
Wonderfully written story.
Yeah.
Well told as well. So there's a lot to comprehend there. I mean, this is good. It has plenty of information. So let's talk about some key details. So like many of the sightings that we've read on the series, it's once more at night, relatively close to midnight. And in many sightings, there can usually be evidence that their eyes have been playing tricks on them, like a Bigfoot, just for a basic example. You see it on the road in the shadows or something. Mm-hmm. You could mistake it for something, or your eyes could play a trick on you. This shook the truck,
Right.
which definitely rules out how it's just a hallucination or something. And also, this figure had wings and, quote, an ostrich-like neck with a scaly texture.
That's a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's impressive.
For something moving in the air, that's like really impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just it, though. It was actually in the truck at that time. It wasn't flying. So
Yeah.
So she was able to get a really good look at it, I guess.
Yeah, so it filled the whole bed of the...
Dodge Dakota.
Yeah, Dodge Dakota.
I know it well.
Do you know how tall the bed was to the top of the car, by chance?
From the bed to the top of the cab, I think you're probably looking at about 2.5 to 3 feet.
Okay.
I mean, from the top of the bed to the top of the cab. The bed itself is probably 1.5 feet deep.
Okay, so it's taller than that, even crouched down. So clearly this thing was tall.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the primary details about this. But we would like to have some more information if we were to get in contact with this person again.
Yeah, so one question is, could you identify any specific facial structure, like a beak shape?
That's true. Different birds have different types of beaks. Some have like the hooked beak and some have just the straight pointy beak.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know where this one falls in.
Yeah. Another question is, were there eyes, and if so, what color?
Yeah, I mean, this... I don't know what this could have been, to be honest. This could have been a bird, a mothman, who knows. But usually with birds, what's the usual color for birds? I don't know. There's a lot of variation.
Yeah,
Like, it would be easy to... It would make it easier to identify what it could be if we get an eye color or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like what we get from a lot of dogman sightings.
Yeah.
Similar idea.
And our next question is, what color were the wings? That's another thing that we didn't quite get from this information.
Yeah. I mean, usually when we talk about like the big birds, like the birds of prey, like the eagles and stuff, you're looking at some combination of like white, gray, and brown. But I would be curious to hear what they saw.
Yeah.
So, with all that kind of now in our heads, what could this be? I mean, we have to kind of analyze some options here. I mean, there are a few.
Well, before we get into that, I want to talk about one other thing that I don't want to gloss over.
Okay.
That sudden feeling of dread
Yeah.
that seems to go hand in hand with most cryptid sightings. I find it interesting that she had that, because that's not a feeling you would get, you know, if a hawk were in the area, or an eagle were in the area, or an ostrich were in the area. So I think that in and of itself lends me to think that this was something more than a normal big bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we also have to remember the whole truck was shaking. I know, even if it wasn't paranormal, that would get me startled.
You're right.
Paralyzed to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a story from a coworker about a time when he was kind of dozing in a truck and a tree limb fell in the back of the truck.
Oh my.
And he said it was the most terrifying thing he'd ever experienced. It was just because suddenly the truck shook and he jumps up, and he actually jumped and ran out of the truck at the time, which is the one thing that I would certainly not do. And,
Yeah.
and I was going to question that in this story as well. But yeah, it's quite a feeling when something unexpected falls into the back of your truck, and if it's big enough to make the whole truck shake, it's definitely an attention getter. And I don't know that a goose or even an eagle or a hawk could do that.
Yeah, so was it a flock of geese?
A whole flock of geese landing at one time in the back of the truck.
And then stacking up to like cover the whole thing, the whole bed.
Yeah, I think that's a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously what we're kind of describing here in traditional sense would be the Thunderbird.
Yeah.
The giant winged creature described in Native American legends that is still being cited in Illinois, southern and central Illinois. Interestingly enough, I did share this story with my brother, who we did the interview with a while back, and he said that he really felt like this person's telling the truth and that they're describing the same thing that he saw.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Thunderbird is a possibility. The only thing that makes me think, kind of lean against Mothman, because Mothman would also be a possibility. Lots of Mothman sightings in Illinois. But she didn't mention glowing red eyes, which I think would catch you right off the bat.
Yeah.
And she mentioned a long beak.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she did mention a long beak.
She did. She didn't describe what type of beak it was, but she said it was a long beak.
Yeah, we don't see that in Mothman sightings.
No.
Except I do sometimes hear people saying like Mothman sightings are like owl sightings.
Mm-hmm.
They see like giant owls or something.
But giant owls would still have a short beak.
Yeah, true, very short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing that would pan towards Mothman would be the sense of dread, to be honest.
Yes.
I mean, if we were to be convinced this was more than just, because the truck was shaking, it was more than that,
Mhm.
then yeah, that would be a good reason to rule towards Mothman.
Yeah. The other thing, she addressed it in the story herself. I mean, do you think it could have been a prank?
I don't know. That would be a big prank.
A big odd prank.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm going to generalize here, but I can generalize because I come from a long line of rednecks, as you know. Someone living in southern Illinois who owns a pickup truck, I think the odds are pretty strong that they've got a gun really close by.
Yeah.
And I would not be playing a prank on somebody who owns a pickup truck in southern Illinois and probably has a gun really close by.
Yeah.
That's not it's not a wise thing to do.
Yeah. And also, this person, as we could tell, picked up a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And I feel like this person would have picked up if it was a human or not.
Yeah, if it was a prank, why did it have wings and a beak? What was the context?
And the scaly neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, did you, like, steal a costume from Chick-fil-A or something?
It's a mascot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I were going to play a prank on somebody, I think I'd dress up as Bigfoot and, do that, jump in the back of the truck as that.
Like start stomping on the back of the truck.
Yeah, it seems oddly specific to dress up as a bird. And again, I mean, I've got enough of my dad in me to my first instinct if I saw a big bird would be shoot it. I don't think it's a wise idea. I don't think anybody would be that stupid to put on a giant bird costume and jump in the back of a pickup truck.
I don't think so either.
Wouldn't it be funny if they were pretending to be Big Bird or something? Flying the truck.
Oh boy.
At 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's enough alcohol in Southern Illinois to get somebody drunk enough to dress up as Big Bird and jump in the back of a truck. I could be wrong. I mean,
Right near a highway.
yeah. I'm trying to think back. I've had friends go to school down there and they've told me frat party stories, but I don't remember any of them involving Big Bird costumes. So I'm kind of inclined to lean against the whole prank idea on this and go toward a legit something.
Yeah.
I mean, could a deer have jumped in the back of the truck? I mean, that's a possibility. They can jump pretty high.
Yeah.
But that level of detail, I mean, there's nothing on a deer that looks scaly.
Yeah, no.
And there's no beak on a deer.
Yeah. The only realistic explanation I could think of that wouldn't be paranormal could be, I guess, just a normal bird that may have just happened to be big because some animals just grow bigger than others.
Yeah.
I guess that's possible.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And she didn't mention finding anything else in the truck, like no feathers, no I was thinking like a piece of wood, because what I was thinking is, what if this was just a really big bird that was perched on a tree above the truck and the limb it was perched on and the bird fell in the back of the truck? That would explain the noise, that would explain the shaking, and that would explain the height of the bird so that she could look it in the eye when she looks in the rearview mirror.
Interesting.
But again, when the bird flew off, there would be a big tree branch in the back of her truck, and she didn't mention seeing that.
That's strange.
So yeah, my gut feeling here is that she saw something that shouldn't have been there, whether it was a Thunderbird or Mothman or a pterodactyl.
Yeah. If we had to make a final decision, I definitely lean towards the Thunderbird
Yeah,
myself.
I think I'm leaning that way too.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
And I guess a final question here: would this thing count as a direct threat, or this individual?
It's an interesting question because, my first thought when I read this story was, why the heck would you get out of the truck?
Yeah.
It's every bit of logic that I have is telling me to stay in the truck unless she was afraid that this thing was going to smash through the window or was big enough to carry off the truck with her in it, was somehow otherwise going to attack her in the truck, and she just had to get out of there as quickly as possible. So I think she sensed a threat. Let's put it that way.
Alright. That'll do.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Well, thank you for a wonderful story. We enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if any of you have a wonderful story to share with us, or even a not so wonderful story to share with us, we'd love to hear it. And we will continue to search for cryptids in Illinois to find our own wonderful stories as well. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for subscribing.